We're recording. So.
Okay. So, yeah, like, or whenever, I just remember there was some time, maybe a couple weeks. I don't even know time frame, but a couple weeks to a couple months after my episode, you had someone on that people were not too happy with you. And
No.
And I don't remember what the controversy was, but I just remember seeing the clip of me talking about people canceling and like how my whole perception about people canceling and how we've gone to the extreme of that. And then you were like, yeah, I didn't contact you for that. I'm like, no, it's cool. It's all good. What I said, I still hold true to, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. So what it was is I interviewed a guy. His name was Ryan Kelly. He was running for governor.
Oh.
And he was a Republican, and people didn't like him for his stances. He had some extreme stances, and he was at the January 6th insurrection or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
And so there was all that controversy. We were coming out of like all, the January 6th thing, the Donald Trump thing. Like, it was just a crazy time in political history. And so many people got mad that I had this guy on the podcast, and people got mad at me for not asking, like he had made some statements about some things that happened like in the educational system. And, people got mad at me for not grilling him on it. And I just let him say it. And I'm like, well, this isn't like a platform for me to debate somebody. It's a platform to just talk.
Right.
And I'm just talking to him to see why he's running for governor. So he give him some exposure. Like, it's not in any way an endorsement of a political candidate. It's me sitting down having a conversation with somebody.
Right. And
doing that, people were mad. And it was mainly on the 517, on the 517 Living page. Yeah, people were like furious. They were messaging Sarah Pierce, telling her to like remove me and not let me post in the group. And
wow,
yeah, it was a pretty big ordeal. And it was kind of funny how it happened too, because I had did the episode on like a Friday, and I was flying to Florida on like a Monday or something like that. And so I got on a plane. I released the episode first thing in the morning. I was getting on a plane, and then that's when everything just kind of started blowing up. And then I was like, "Oh man! By the time I land, this is going to be crazy. I don't even know what to expect when I land."
Right.
And so I had seen kind of where it was going prior to landing. So the whole time on the flight, I just typed up this post. And I think I went back and I found that clip, and I was editing that clip on the plane. And so when I landed, I posted that clip, and then I posted I put a post up on the 517 all over social media. And what was crazy about that is people get mad at you for having these discussions, but them getting mad just gives you more exposure.
Yes.
And so all it did was help me.
Right.
And I'm like, I actually kind of like this. Yeah. Like, it was entertaining to watch. It's uncomfortable at first, but once you like realize, oh, this is what's happening, like, and there's nothing you can do to change it.
Right.
You just got to sit back and enjoy it.
Right. Because when you and I had, even though it was like through a message or like a text or something, and you're like, I'm so sorry, I didn't even ask if it was okay. I was like, no, I'm that's the point of the whole cancellation. And I think, yeah, we talked about, I believe, because I'd have to go back and rewatch what we talked about, but I swear we talked about like the whole circle of why you need to have different opinions out there, and you have to hear it. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it.
No. And we still are in that time, and we're in that mindset in culture.
Yes.
Where if we don't agree with somebody, we want to remove them from the conversation.
Yes.
And it's a real problem.
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it with like Fox News and CNN and the things that they're talking about. Like, Fox News covers certain things, CNN covers other things, and they purposely avoid certain topics on each side. It's like, what is going on?
Yes.
And so then you have to rely on alternative platforms like podcasts and people who have YouTube shows to kind of give you the facts.
Well, not only that, you have to be wanting to be curious to see really what the other side is saying.
Yeah.
You have to, I mean, if you're on one stance or another, you really have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
you have to look at things from like
all perspectives.
All perspectives, and know like where's the fuckery coming from.
Yeah, because it's coming from every direction.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
There is.
Everybody has an agenda they're trying to push.
Oh, absolutely.
And a narrative they want to get out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I said this in the last one or not, but I had someone that I love dearly, I used to work with. And we had this really crazy conversation in 2020. Like, right, he's in another state. And he started going down these rabbit holes that my entire life I've been like, haven't you been questioning your life? I mean, hello. And he was like, what? And he's like, I'm getting nervous with us just talking about this because I'm sure they're hearing us. I said, honey, they've been recording us since the 40s. They've been listening to us since the 40s. And he's like, what? Because I tend to lean left, everybody that's on the right, they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, no, really look into it.
What's crazy though is like, what does that even mean now? When you say like I lean left, like
right? Yeah, because I'm not the woke, because that's crazy. I mean, I love people, but that's crazy. Yeah. Like we've gone. In Narnia land. When did we lose that we're all human? Like we're all human on this planet. Like.
Well, what's crazy about all of that is that like once you say you lean left, then you kind of identify as like this, like you're identified, you're kind of pushed into this category of like, okay, now you're like with them.
Yeah.
Or if you're right, then you're with this extreme, as opposed to just being like, I'm kind of like in the center and I flow back and forth.
And I feel like that's where I'm at. Anymore.
I feel like that's where most people are.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. But you really, I mean, I'm all about curiosity anyway, because I'm just curious by nature. So
yeah, I mean, well, that's an important thing to be in today's society, especially as we learn more about culture and history and things change and morph. Like everything changes. It's good to be curious.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why I have my podcast.
How's that going, by the way?
Well, interesting. I'm on my second season. I have like 5, I think, episodes out. I've learned some stuff since I last was here. I've broadened the platforms than the last time I was here. I'm still out of my comfort zone with tech, so that's why I'm always like, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I don't do any of this.
How do you record? Do you have like a microphone?
I have a microphone and my laptop. That's the extent of it. I have to learn something. I started to look last summer into getting some kind of program so I can do, because there's a bunch of interviews I want to do that they aren't local.
Right.
And the one I really was liking, but it doesn't fit with what I have because I'm very basic in tech. I say that because I have so many friends that are tech people that they're like, Jen, I'm like, well, that's not my focus. Let's be out hugging a tree, okay? So, but I have come a long way. I still shake my head when I'm editing and going, oh my God, why do I have to remember this again? But I do enjoy it. I did a couple of interviews last summer. That one I just finally got around to editing, and it was a pelvic floor. So, and it's interview with a pelvic floor therapist, because we all have one as a human, no matter how you identify, everybody has one. So, last season, I talked about foreskin. This season so far, we've talked about vaginas and pelvic floors. So,
interesting.
So we're hitting everything.
Does that make your audience uncomfortable, or do they lean into it?
Well, since I'm called the Naughty Mystic and it's all about taboo, which I have found, I don't know if I said this last time I was here a year ago, but since then, I've found out literally everything is taboo to somebody. So whether I'm talking about astrology or hugging a tree or talking about omegas and I mean, the simple things, you're like, why is that a thing? But it's a thing, because for everybody, either it makes them uncomfortable, or they're like, why do we have to talk about that? Or, that's not really true. Well, you really need to. If you don't believe me, then go look into your own research. That's what I always say.
So do you get a lot of negative feedback then?
I haven't gotten a negative feedback yet, but I've been waiting. I've been waiting, but I haven't really had that much. And it's curious because I feel like since the pelvic floor episode came out, which was, I think I posted it on the 5th of this month, there has been more people that I know that have listened to that, and a lot of women I know, because as a woman, or identify as a, whoever has a vagina, I'll put it that way, because everybody, identifies differently. But if you have a vagina, most of the people think when you're talking about pelvic floor, it is like you just have to do Kegels. So a year ago, before I did the interview, it was like before I did the interview, I started, going and kind of doing my own survey with women I know.
What kind of questions would you ask?
I would say, do you know anything about your pelvic floor? Like, what does that mean to you? And I had people say, I have no idea what you're talking about. I had people say, I know what you're talking about, and I've already experienced that. And my favorite is, well, if you don't use it, then you lose it, and you have to do Kegels. And I'm like, well, but that's not, that's
if
one
you don't
little.
use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
In what sense?
Basically, in some people's minds, that if you don't have your muscular tension internally, like if your muscles aren't working, then you're not going to be having sex that's comfortable, or you're going to start peeing more, like
right.
bladder control issues, because you're like, things are going to just fall out of your system, basically.
Right.
Like everything's going to, and some of that can be a little bit true, but not really, because usually there's some kind of internal issue, or you've had some kind of surgery. Because I'm being very broad because there's so many different things.
Right.
But a lot of people don't even understand that you can have all these internal issues, men and women. Like if you have low back issues, if you have hip issues, even some of your, in your abs and stuff, that could be because you actually have internal tension. A lot of women, as they get older, sex can hurt, and it's really because of your pelvic floor, either not being tight enough, or it's too tight, and it's got to get, like an internal exam and have muscles relaxed. And
how do you do that?
You have to go internally with. That's why you have a pelvic floor therapist, because men do it one way, have it done, and women can have it one of two ways, and it's all internal.
How do the men have it done?
What's up your anus if you're internally?
And what do they use?
Usually just fingers.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's intense. Now, I didn't have a male specialist on, so I don't want to speak out of turn, because that is not my area of expertise. But
have you done it on a woman?
I have not, but I've had it done on me. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm a massage therapist. That's not my forte. No, you're like, did you do it? No. Well, I had it done to me. But, and it's funny because in the episode, that is something that I said, because when Elena, who is the physical therapist, who is the pelvic floor specialist that I interview, I said, when I told you, I said, I'm tight for my ass and my feet. I always have been. I said, when you went in for the internal exam, she goes, I wasn't expecting, I was expecting you to be way tighter, but it's an external thing for me. It's not an internal thing for being tense. I just need to stretch and, drink more water.
So is there ways to avoid it, like by doing more exercise and stretching and eating differently, or like?
It really depends on the person. And that's why, I'm not the expert, even though I'm talking about this, I'm not the expert, but there is sensitivities, and it depends on how you were born too, because not everything is because you had a baby, or because you're a certain age, or because you had this experience. Sometimes life happens, and you were born with certain things happening.
Could it be that you're predispositioned to have more stress?
I don't really know if it's a stress thing.
No,
I don't think so. I think it's more about I don't know. I think it just I really do believe it's per person.
Yeah.
Because everything that's running through my head is like, well, that's not true for that person or that you know what I mean?
Right.
So listen to the episode. It's way more. And I didn't have a male specialist, so I can't really speak for what the guys go through. I just know it's anally if the muscles are tight. And it really does make sense on some levels, because after working on so many people over the years, and I do speak about this, about the women when I was in Arizona, 55 and above, because there's a lot of people that have pain, like around not just their pelvis, but like where the leg and the hip, meet with the stomach, like where all the right through there. I'm like, I'm blanking out on
It's like your psoas?
Psoas is a little higher up, but like where everything meets up, like there's all the muscles right in the crease. And that can be very, very tight. And now looking back at it, I'm pretty sure most of those people needed pelvic floor therapy, because now that I think about it, because again, in the episode I mentioned, like, I had this but a class I was going to take in California pre-COVID, like in 2019. I was kind of interested. There was a massage and pelvic floor continuing education, because I'm always having to do continuing education for my massage license. And I was going to go do that. And then 2020 happened, and that all, turned it around. So I hadn't done that. But then 2 years ago, I was like, well, I need to get looked at, because I don't know, was there something going on? Not, I'm curious, need to know. So that was a thing. And then that's when I found Elena, and we started working on it like a year and a half ago, something like that now. So
is that what Larry Nassar was doing to his patients?
Yes. It's a real thing, but what he was doing was not appropriate.
What was his reasoning for doing that? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't remember, because it was just like a blip. I've worked on some of his victims.
Really?
Yes. I didn't know at first. They brought this to my attention and made it uncomfortable for them to have massage work done sometimes, but it's very deeply personal, because because when you're any pelvic floor work that you're going to get, no matter what it is, whether you're being taught the stretches, it's very personal and it's very in your space. So
because you're going in somebody, right?
Yeah, and some of the stretches are when you're external too, and that's something that Elena brings up. She's like, I have to ask permission, because sometimes people are not in the mindset for it.
So how do you tell somebody that this is what you need?
What do you mean? Like if I think something?
Yeah, I mean, because it's so personal. I mean, not just you, but anybody who's in that field, who's an expert. Like, they're like, hey, in order for this issue to be resolved, we have to go inside you to adjust. Like,
well, okay.
How do you trailblaze those paths?
I think I know what you're asking. Okay, so from my perspective, now that I understand pelvic floor better, again, not, an expert, but now that I understand it better, I have a couple of clients right now that I have said to them, if this continues, I think you really need to get in and see a pelvic floor specialist, a PT, and have them assess you. Because you have an assessment out, that's external, and then if they feel that you should be internal, then they're going to ask you if it's okay, if they can do an internal exam.
Mm.
But it's not like something they're like, you're going to get on this and we're going to do that.
Right.
It's not like that. But see, most with women that I have found, when pelvic floor is discussed, if they're aware of it, it's because they have had a baby.
Mm.
To my knowledge, now I have been around some massage therapists that are locally around here, and they're doulas, and so for them that's a normal conversation.
Right.
Most of my clients, no matter how old or young they are, this is not discussed. Or not because I'm not discussing it, it's just that's not in their mindset, and that's not, what I'm working on.
What is the general consensus for people when you bring it up to them? Are they like, no, don't want to do that, or do they seem interested?
Most people don't even understand what it is.
Yeah.
really. That's why when I did my little assessment was like, most people were like, what are you talking about? And then if they did know, like, oh, yeah, I've been through it. I have one client that was really, really excited I was doing this because she is older, never had kids, had some internal stuff going on, front and like up, down, all around. I'll put it that way because there was things going on. So she's gone through it multiple times, but she goes, Jenni, I didn't even know any of this was even possible 5 years ago,
Wow.
6 years ago. And she goes, all my girlfriends that have kids never discussed this with me. This is not something people discuss. So she's like, so for you to not only bring it up and say, what is this? What do I need to look into?
So on your podcast,
Yeah.
you aren't necessarily an expert in these things, but you just bring these up. You study whatever it is you're going to talk about, whatever the topic is, like pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And then you talk about it, but then you interview people who are experts in it too.
Yeah.
And do you do that in the same episode, or do you do that?
Well, it depends on the topic. Now, the astrology stuff is just me talking about whatever it is. The interviews so far that I've done is I did like my naturopath that's in Arizona, explaining what a naturopath is. Had, he and I just were talking back and forth. It wasn't me like, what else?
Right.
Because we knew each other. He used to work in the building I used to work in. So he would bring up stuff. We just kind of did like this. It wasn't really but I wanted to do at least basic because he was excited about that because a lot of people don't know what naturopaths are and, explain what that is. So people have options because that's the other thing I like is giving people options because a lot of people don't know what's out there. And if you don't know what's out there, how are you going to resolve something? 'Cause
right.
some people need to do this in life via the snakes. No. Or some people, they don't need to be on the straight and narrow. And then there are topics, and I did, Elena with the pelvic floor. Usually if it's a specific topic, I let the expert talk about it. Because I might say something in another episode because I do talk about the body in a lot of different episodes. But then there's I'm going off about something that I've experienced. I had an omega top, I did an omegas and explained the different omegas and what they mean. And even when I was doing research on the omegas, and I've been taking a multi-omega for years that has no fish oil in it, but it has the 3, the 5, the 6, the 7, the 9. I didn't even realize that 7 helps lubricate both sets of lips. So that was my running call
really?
For that. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know that. I didn't know that was a thing. I was just doing a little bit of research. And when I say I do a little bit of research, it's like a little. It's not like I'm doing this days and weeks and stuff. If I'm curious about something, now there might be a topic I know more about, that might go on. But usually it's, that's curious now. And then I feel like the universe keeps, giving me guidelines on where I'm supposed to go with stuff. So it's like, here's the topic, and then I hear something from somebody else, the same thing. And then I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be covering or, oh, I'm curious about this. Maybe you find this interesting too. So kind of like that.
Yeah, it's all a journey, right?
Yep.
Once you get going, and that's the thing about podcasting.
Yeah.
It's once you do it, then things just seem to happen and just seems to keep rolling and going and going and going. And then you end up on other podcasts and you end up meeting all kinds of cool people. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is.
It's a fun journey, and it's a huge education for me.
Yes,
I've learned a lot. I had a guy ask me, he's like, "Why do you do this?"
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, I've learned a lot. That's number one. I've talked to so many cool people. I've met a lot of awesome people, and I enjoy doing it. It's fun."
Well, and it's because you're curious. That's going back to the curiosity because. I think there's just so many people out there that are not even there. I think they're in their, and they get stuck. They're comfortable. Maybe they don't think that they need to, uproot their life.
Well, and that's kind of how it was for me before I started this podcast. I was thinking about that yesterday because we were moving dirt and stuff in our backyard. And I remember when we bought this house, it looked nothing like this. And when we bought it, the exterior, nothing looked how it looks now. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, we've done so much work. And I remember during the period of time when we were working on the house the most, we'd had a bunch of dirt delivered before. Like we've probably brought in here at least 60 yards of dirt.
Okay.
At least. At the very least. This last load was 12 yards. So, and we've done that a lot.
Are you trying to like level up, or what are you trying to do?
So when we bought the house, there was like there was like gardens all along the fence on both sides, up by the house. And in the back there was like pine trees, and the yard just kind of dipped down in spots. So we brought in all this dirt to kind of level everything out, and it looks nice now. Before it was just a hot mess. But I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, like I remember the state of mind I was in when we were doing this before. Like I remember just like constantly working on this all the time. I had nothing else to do. Like I kind of enjoyed working on it. Like I could take pride in it. But now when I was moving dirt, I'm like, I hate this. I don't want to fucking do this. I do not want to do this. I have no motivation. I don't want to work on the yard. Like I just want to like enjoy it. I want to enjoy doing the things that I enjoy doing, like the podcast, and that's it. Like I don't want to do this, but that's the thing. Like I got comfortable in life. Like I got comfortable not having any passion, not learning anything, not like taking the extra step to become a better person. I mean, I think that those things did help me become a better person. Right. But it's just at that time, like I had nothing else going for me.
Right.
And so by like having this podcast, it's helped me tremendously.
I think I've seen you evolve also, because in the community now you're like, get that motivational thing in the morning and well, let's do it, let's go for it, or whatever your slogan is. I'm like,
get after it.
Yeah, get after it. I'm like, hey, you go, David. I see you. I see you. I may not be out running in the rain like you, but I see you.
I wonder, like when I post those things, if people get annoyed. But then I don't really care.
Right.
I'm like,
exactly.
It is what That's it is. I mean, it's just helping people is all.
Exactly.
So
you inspire me in the mornings. I'm like, yeah, I gotta get this shit done. But I'm like, I'm not. Well, in my mind, I'm not a procrastinator. I don't think I am. I have so many different avenues. Like yesterday, I was at an event in Chelsea at the fairgrounds for a crafting show. Well, I do fusion glass. And I have given it out. There are people who've ordered stuff, but I have all this extra glass, so I go now and do. I promise myself only once a quarter do I go to a craft thing. So I go to, but I also take, because I'm a Juice Plus Tower Garden affiliate, I take my stuff for that. And I had these little handouts for the podcast, and I had made a flyer to put on the table. And there's the least amount of stuff in there, and out of the three, but I had all three of them on there, and people are like, wow, you got stuff going on. I'm like, well, I'm also a massage therapist and a horticulturist, so yeah. They're like, wow. I'm like, well, but I'd stop and, talk to them. Some people are like, ignore you and whatever, but I have so many interests that I have to actually balance my life.
Yeah, and that's so good, though. That's an important thing to have in life. I feel the same way. I have so much going on now, and it's because of this podcast. And this is just now a portion of all the crap I have going on. Mm-hmm. But it's like sometimes it's overwhelming. But then I think would I change it? Because it's helping me. It's helping a movement essentially.
Yes.
Like having this podcast and the things that have come along with it is helping a community of people.
Yes.
So. I think it's important to have multiple things going on, constantly staying busy, working on different things. Sometimes you feel like, man, I'm just drowning. I'm just barely treading water here.
Yes.
But that's so important, I think.
Yes, because I have noticed that since the episodes, I've had friends, ex-coworkers, whatever, that have said, are you going to work on this topic? Are you going to speak about any of this? So I have a whole list of that going on. I have a whole list of people that I want to do interviews because of what they are passionate about, or it gives us an option to talk about more stuff that, I just did an interview on Friday of a friend of mine who is locally famous for doing aura readings. I mean, I say famous, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well known in Lansing, and she was very nervous.
Who was it?
Her name is Dom Bomber. She does or
Okay.
reading. She is at Beyond of Dream, and
Okay.
she's also a cartoonist. She's
Oh,
a
cool.
fabulous artist. But I did an interview with her because I wanted to talk to her about auras and colors, because I see color a different way that she sees color. And like, that's another thing about gifts and people's gifts. Because if you guys don't know, I'm an empath. So that's a big thing in my massage stuff. But how I visualize stuff and read people and stuff like that, I see it completely different than she does. And I really wanted to make sure I got an episode. There's a couple different people I want to do this with that is specifically about everybody's gifts, because there are people out there who are just becoming aware of their gifts, because I think everybody has gifts. But I also didn't understand that, because I thought my gifts were just a human thing, that everybody had the same thing. So I didn't think anything of it. But now that I understand that I have my own unique gifts and everybody has it, there are a lot of people who are comparing themselves to other people, which I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, that's not...
Like people who are like empaths and stuff are comparing themselves?
Kind of like if you're in a group of people and you know they have different abilities, people who are maybe not aware of what their own gifts are, or they're just becoming to understand, they're like, well, I do this, but they do this. And then, that whole comparison thing.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I've ever done that per se. Like, I know I've sat back and observed people for different parts of my life of, different things. Not necessarily about gifts, but I don't know if I really compare myself, because I'm always like, I'm really much happier than they are.
But it's stifling too.
Yeah.
When you in anything, when you
Yes.
start comparing yourself to somebody and you're like, man, I just want to be like them, or
Yes.
like, why are they doing that? I should be
Yes.
doing that. It's like,
Yes.
you can't think that way at all.
No. And what comes out for me might not come out for you. And you may have something else that is amazing that I'm like, that's amazing. Like, I have a couple of friends that when they do readings, they're seeing colors, they're seeing auras, they're seeing whatever, but I see everything in scenes. And it doesn't, well, so far, I'll say so far, because I'm testing this out in a couple different ways that I've never even thought I would be testing this out in. But when I go to look at, because I've been told by many people that I can see auras, I'm just blocking that ability. And I'm like, well, if I can see all this other shit, then why do I need to have one more? Like, you know what I mean? Like, in my head, it's like, that's just one more that I'm good with where I'm at right now. But I had a friend years and years and years ago told me that I needed to write down, like, what the colors represented to me. And then Dawn told me to do that a couple years ago, and I haven't been doing that until just recently. But still, when I like, do a reading on someone, or if I see something, it's always in a scene. It's always in a scene. And then if even when I'm just trying to figure out what their colors mean, like what their aura is, or what I see with them, and it's really funny because it's always a scene. It's always I haven't seen past that yet, so I don't know. I made that maybe just what I do.
Interesting. How often do you do that?
Do what?
Readings.
Well, that has been coming out of my comfort zone, right? Because apparently, almost the entire time I've been doing massage, I've been doing that. But it's been on a different level of than just like sitting across from you and doing a reading. Okay. So,
So when you do a reading, what does the scene typically look like? Do you, like, you're doing it while you're massaging?
When I'm doing massaging, I literally feel the person's energy. Like, I mean, if there's, I have a lot of people that come to me that have health issues, and they can be all kinds of health issues. But I tend to get the people that other therapists don't want to work on, scared to work on, whatever.
Like old?
It can be old. I work on a 99-year-old. So
holy cow.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
What do you do to the 99-year-old?
Just work on her back. That's what she wants.
Wow.
She's amazing.
Wow.
She told me last year, because of where I go to see her, she was like, you will. I'm trying not to laugh. She was 98 at the time, and she's like, you will be here in August. And I said, excuse me? And she's a sweet woman, but she's like, you will be here. next month. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm turning 99. You will be here. I'm like, okay. And she's already informed me when I saw her last week that she will be here for her 100th birthday in August, and I will be there for that too. And I was like, okay, hey, but literally people have, I have regulars that have pacemakers, that have stimulators, all kinds, whether they're in their back or lashed, the battery pack is like in their hip or their glute or something like that. I've worked on people with rods in their backs or whatever, just different stuff. I just keep getting a lot of autoimmune disease people. There's just a lot of that stuff. Now I can do a regular massage, but I get a lot of people that have some kind of trauma, some kind of something.
So when you see, I mean, obviously, like the body stores stress and trauma in different ways. So what is the typical way? Like where would you feel the most tension?
It literally is per person.
Yeah,
it totally is. So people get stressed and they can hold energy in different spots. So a lot of people say shoulders, neck, or in the hips. But what I find, yes, they can have that there. But what I really find is like if they're not feeling good. I have one client that tells me all the time, and I laugh because I tell everybody this. Like she's like, your job sucks, Jenni. If I was you, I would never want to feel like how I feel. And she's like serious when she says it, but I always laugh because I'm like, well, I mean, this is what I do. Like, what do you want me to do? I'm just saying your job sucks. Because she's like, you literally feel everything I can feel. Because I'll tell her, I'm like, I'm feeling. And it depends on the person, too. So if they have a lot of health issues, I could feel it in a different way than, because some people don't want to. They know I'm very sensitive and I'm an empath, but they don't want to hear what I'm feeling. Like I'll just say I feel nauseous right now, or I have a headache, or I've actually had to stop working on people because it was so overwhelming.
Wow.
That I was like, and that was that same client. And I think literally on the look of her face, she thought I was never going to come back again. Cause I just said, I have to stop touching you. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, no, I have to. And I've only stopped a couple times working on people. That was because it was overwhelming with too much energy. She had so many deaths that had happened within weeks, and they're going to move. It was so many things going on at one time that it was so. She, on the external, she looked fine, but internally, she was just so. I couldn't. I was like, I can't even.
Wow.
Because I mean, I can feel nauseous, but that time I thought I was literally like not going to be able to not. Literally puke all over her. Like I thought that was going to happen right now. There wasn't even a way to. So I'm like, I got to stop. But
so you massage people. You can read other people. Do you go do this for yourself?
Get massages,
work that. I mean, because like I could imagine if this is what you're feeling during a massage, you're kind of taking all that on. That you would also kind of absorb the stress, right? Your body would.
Yes.
And the tension. So do you get that worked out?
Yes, I get massage done. Recently I've had to do it more than, because I do other modalities. I do self-care at least like once a week with something, but I do other modalities too, because I am so sensitive to energy that a couple years ago, maybe now 5 or 6 years ago, I was introduced to a woman who isn't living in Midland, but she does emotional code, body code, energy release stuff. So that helps me really through several different things that was subconsciously happening, not just with clients, but me as a person, as you let go of the old versions of you, right? Or when you have these epiphanies. I don't know about you, but it really sucks when you're like, I thought I fucking worked through that, and it's like, So I have that. And then I have been doing, I don't know, like 4 years, maybe, sound baths. And whether it's with gongs or singing bowls or tuning forks or...
So when when you're doing a sound bath, what is the state of mind? Are you supposed to be like meditating when that happens?
Sometimes. I used to do group ones.
Okay.
But the person that was doing the group ones isn't doing group ones anymore, so I'm doing one-on-one. And with her, I always say, just surprise me. So she intuitively goes with whatever I need. So I have had gong sessions, which I get very excited about gongs. I get very excited because to me, gongs are so powerful. They go so deep. And I'm going to do episodes on the podcast with this. I've actually asked her if I can do an interview with her. And she's like, I don't think anybody wants to hear it. And I'm like, no, you don't understand people. Because she doesn't, it's not that she doesn't think of herself as self-worthy. She just doesn't think anybody would be interested in hearing her talk. But I'm like,
yeah, a lot of people would.
This is how people need to know information.
Yeah.
So
I mean, do people go to your class? Yeah, that means they're interested. That means they want to hear. They want to hear.
Do you have clients? Yeah,
right.
That means yeah. So I don't know. Maybe she just doesn't have that mic. Anyway. But I do have to talk to her about that. And then, but yeah, with the gongs. Oh my God. So gongs, they are so powerful. They go in so deep. Like, I lost a really good friend right before lockdown, and it had nothing to do with COVID. It had to do with his life and just him in general. And so I worked through the grief through 2020, and and I was good with the lockdown. I was going on walks, I was hugging trees. Like, the lockdown didn't affect me like it did for other people because of this. And I was working through grief of other people too, all at the same time. So I was very thankful for that. And then she started doing group sessions again, and it was like a year and a half after, something like that. I want to say, give or take, it doesn't really matter. But I thought, because grief comes in different portions, right? But I was in one of the group sessions, and it was an hour and a half session. And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, 45 minutes out of nowhere, 45 minutes in, the gong, she hit this gong, right? Because she had all these, 8 different ones, and they all make different noise. She hit this one gong, and all of a sudden, something from the pit of my being. I don't even know if it was my soul. I don't know if it was, whatever you want to say, to the depths of your, whatever. But there was just this profoundness of just this grief that just came flying up, and I was just ugly crying it. Not that anybody could hear it because of the gong stuff, but it didn't matter. But I was like, I didn't even know I had that in me. And the last time I had a gong session with her, because anytime I go in there, last time it was singing bowls. And the singing bowls, it not only just vibrates, but it actually helps release muscle too. So
when she's doing these, what's the state of mind? Is she trying to get you into a relaxed state, and she's kind of guiding you through some sort of meditation?
Not really a guide. She just wants you to guided to try to breathe and be even keel if you can.
So are you laying down?
Laying down, yes.
And your eyes are closed?
Mine are, yes.
Yeah.
Because then I get to see all the colors or the visions or whatever it is. Yeah.
Do you know what's interesting about that? There's definitely something to that, because I remember the first time I took hot yoga, we did this brutal session. It was an hour and a half or an hour or something like that. And afterwards, they're doing this guided meditation, and you're in this warm room, you're covered in sweat, and you're laying down, and he's guiding you. I think it was a guy. He was guiding us through this meditation. And all of a sudden, I just I felt like I was laying on a beach. It seemed so vivid. I could picture a beach, and I could hear waves crashing. I could feel the sun. Mm-hmm. It was so weird, and it only lasted a couple seconds, and then I snapped out of it, and I was like, "Oh, I want to go back. I want to go back." But it was so weird. I had never had any experience like that.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's.
And I just felt relaxed afterwards.
Yeah, in the last gong session, I was vibrating so much, it was great. I was in a happy vibrational, that I felt that for 3 days. It just was my whole body was doing this very light vibrational feeling. And it was just happy, just happy goodness.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was good. It was just so good. I love gongs. I like singing bowls, and I like everything, but I really like gongs. I screamed the last time she had the gongs out. She's like, "No, Jenni, in this space." I'm like, I know we were the only ones and her dog, the only one in the house, but in this space, I'm like, oh my God, it's the ghost. I started screaming like I was like 5 or something. I don't know. But yeah, I get very excited. But I like to, I want to bring that into it. And then, those are going to be discussed at some point, when I can get interviews. Because that stuff, like those kind of self-care things that I do, I want the person that is my whatever teacher, therapist, because most of them don't want to be considered therapists, but what are their specialists, I guess,
right.
Specialty. I don't know what the hell they want to call themselves, but in their own categories, and I want them to talk about it and have it one-on-one, because then
right.
they can bring up stuff that I can bring up anything, but
yeah.
they're in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they're the expert in that field, so then they can talk about it, shed more light on it, and kind of make it like easier for the people that are listening to be like, oh, that's what that is.
Yeah,
it's not so taboo.
Well, yes, I love that. But no, I actually had some people give me feedback on the pelvic floor stuff, and one of my friends said, "I'm glad the way that you talked about it." She said some of it. She goes, "I really liked your pelvic floor therapist interview," but she goes, some of it still was over my head. Like I've had a couple of people say still some of that stuff, but I'm trying to give you the basics so then you can go in and get more research or
right.
figure it out. It doesn't have to go to,
you don't have to get an education in it. You just kind of introduce somebody to it so that they're interested if it sounds like something they're interested in.
Yes.
And then they can go and do more research on it.
Yes.
Like, oh, what is this about?
Right. Because when Alina did, she's very much more, she's more, so she went into great detail to explain what every muscle is and what the pelvic floor is. She does all that explaining. And so some of that stuff, if you're not working with the anatomy all the time, some of it, I forget the name of even though I always say this, even though I have 2 science degrees, I think like an artist. So, and everybody's like, no, you do both. You just don't think you're doing it.
Right.
Because I'm always, thinking it as the colors and the art and who cares about the Latin, create my own words, my own language. So, but I think that's really important for people because you got to start somewhere. That's always with me wanting to like introduce things to people. Like, one of the ones I got told, the pomegranates, they're like, I know this last year on the pomegranate season started because that was like the first episode that dropped. I think after the introduction, or maybe even it dropped before the introduction. I don't remember. There was some kind of screw up with that, but that's okay. Whatever. I'm out of my comfort zone. That's all that matters. And so this last pomegranate season, I had all these people going, it's pomegranate season, and getting excited because I was like, I love pomegranates. It's on the episode, and they're so good for you. So, so like, yeah, it's all kinds of different things. But there's things that people never even heard about,
Yeah.
I just was introduced to some things in the last couple months that I never even knew existed, that I'm trying to understand for myself before I have the interviews for the people who are doing it. Because I'm like, okay, this is fascinating. And why aren't we talking about this? And why has this never been a thing?
Huh.
Mm-hmm. So,
I mean, that's the important thing about having a platform and then realizing that there's things that need to be talked about. It's like, oh, that's my job.
I'll take that on.
Yeah.
I'll take that on because I'm like, whatever. Yeah. Like one of the ladies at the event yesterday said, okay, so what is taboo? And I started naming off the stuff because I said, well, I've talked about, I talk about astrology and I talk about food and I talk about travel and I talk about different holidays that you might not know about. And I said, oh, I talked about foreskin. And I said, in the pelvic floor, I said, we just mentioned vagina. I don't know how many times. And she's like, but none of these things do I think are taboo. I said, exactly. I actually do some witchy stuff on there too, so you never know. I don't know how much, but then, you know, what do you consider witchy, you know?
Right.
Because to me, walking in the woods, hugging a tree is not witchy, but to some people, they think I'm fucking nuts. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. My dad has always, and I even said this in a couple episodes, I'm like, in my 20s, you know, I would be on campus with my father, and he would be like, oh my God, Jenni, stop doing that. You're embarrassing me. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm hugging the trees and talking to the plants and all the things. And he's like, you're embarrassing me. I said, I thought it was supposed to be the other way around. So now I go intentionally hug a tree and talk to a plant in front of him. You know, I visited him a couple weeks ago in Florida, and I made sure he took pictures of me with trees at least 3 times.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He didn't say anything about it. So it's funny.
That is funny. That is funny. Yeah, I mean, so many people have different ideas of what's taboo. I mean, even just simply conversations with other people. Like we were talking in the beginning, like you're not supposed to talk about certain things because it's taboo. And it's like, why? Why is it taboo? Why is it so bad to have these conversations? Why is it so bad to talk about certain things? They're just things.
Right.
And it's in life.
And this is my question, is like, how are you supposed to know anything if you don't ask a question?
Yeah.
That's if you're trying to understand a different perspective, I'm never going to know how you experienced life. I'm just not.
Right.
That's not my journey.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So if I'm going to ask you a question about it, it's because I genuinely want to know.
Right.
Like, and then like, oh, aha. You know what I mean? Okay. When I lived in Colorado, I love homemade tortillas with butter and salt, okay? I had a babysitter, neighbors, that were Mexican. She would make homemade tortillas on the stove. Oh, my
Amazing.
God. Butter and salt, my God. So when I moved to Colorado years ago, and I had some coworkers that were Mexican, and I would say, does anybody make homemade tortillas? I can homemade tortillas and butter and salt. And then they're like, are you sure you're not Mexican? And I'm like, yeah, they say I'm not, but you know. And then I have a girlfriend also in Colorado that she's always like, girl, you're really a black woman in a white body. That's all I gotta say. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but but okay, sure, why not? I don't know if you think so. She's like, but your answers are never what I expect you to say. So yeah, are those taboo? Yeah, probably.
I mean, that all goes to like having life experience, right? Being surrounded by different cultures and being like putting yourself in different people's shoes, and that's the importance about like today and living in today's society and having conversations and doing different like podcasts with different people. Like I'm sure you interview people, like even if it's like you're the pelvic floor lady, like you might not agree with everything she talks about,
right,
or the way she lives, or her beliefs or ideas, but you don't have to, because you guys have common ground.
Exactly.
You have just one thing in mind, and that's just being curious, and you want to know what it is that she has to share.
Right.
And that's so important for so many different things, and for culture and today and society.
But even if you ask a question and it's inappropriate, but you don't know it's inappropriate, how are you going to know?
Right. Yeah.
How are you going to know?
Right. And if it is inappropriate and you offended somebody, just say sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you.
Right. I didn't know it was wrong. Like, I didn't know. Like, I just am curious, you know?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise you're living in a vacuum and people just say whatever they want to say and believe what they want to believe.
Right. Right. And that's sad.
It
is
in my
opinion, it's sad because there's a whole bunch of people out there. There's a big world, some really great food. And you know, there's fun traditions that you don't even know is a thing, and like how fun. Like you just the world is beautiful. People are really beautiful. But you know, everybody wants it to be all negative and live in fear and push the fear thing. So then, you know,
I think it's honestly just America. I think we have life way too easy, and we don't have any struggle. Like we don't have any reason to like, we don't have any hardships. Whereas like in other cultures, other countries rather, they're just trying to survive. And in America, it's easy to survive. And then we start worrying about other things.
I agree with you on an extent to that. But there's also, I do think that there is an agenda out there currently that we want to push fear, like across the world. I don't think it's just one thing.
Do you think like from the government? Is that what you mean?
Everything is about the government. It's whoever's running the world. However you want to view that. It's always like,
well, I mean, we've seen it during COVID, right? Everybody, they put the fear into everybody.
Everybody.
And, people were afraid to go outside. They were afraid to do anything. And if you went and did something, they would get mad at you. Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know. You've seen it the most during COVID. Mm-hmm. And even now, like it's the lasting effects of that is still carrying on.
Oh, I know, because this is one of the interesting things I have found. So regardless if the restrictions are all up in May, blah, 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 I still wear a mask when I work on people because I am right in their face. And one thing I have learned in the last 3 years, for me personally, I cannot speak for anybody else, is that I've only been sick, quote unquote, one time, and it was laryngitis. So is that really sick? Or are you having a virus so you can't talk? I don't know. But either way, I'm not a doctor. But even when I did test positive for COVID, I was never sick. The only reason I tested was because I couldn't smell for 3 hours.
3 hours, that's it.
3 hours. Like, I couldn't smell my essential oils for 3 hours. That was it. Not 3 days, not 3 weeks, for 3 hours.
Well, you got lucky because some people lost it for good.
Yeah. I know. I'm not trying to brag, but and I was out walking like 4 miles a day. So I don't know about anyone's position, but people are like, you don't have to wear a mask around me because I've been vaxxed up. No, it has nothing to do with that. It literally is because I'm that close to you, and I'm not a germaphobe. I just don't need you sneezing on me when I'm that close to you in your face. That's it. Because I'm out. I mean, because yesterday at the craft place, there were people, and it was an open air like venue. Like some of the vendors were outside. I was in the building, but it was one of those big, like a fairground building, like a pole barn kind of situation.
Like a pavilion.
Yeah. Yeah, but it has doors they have go up and down. It's a building structure, but almost all the doors were open. So there was free flow of air, and there were people wearing masks. Do I judge them? No. But we were outside, so.
Do you know the people I judge that wear masks?
What?
The people that are alone in their vehicle, driving, wearing a mask.
You're not the only person who said that. I do. And then I think about that because sometimes I have the mask like laying below me. I haven't taken it off, and they're like, what is going on? Well, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
I seen a guy the other day. He was wearing an N95 mask, and he was in the car by himself.
Like, why?
Why? I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? Like,
I don't know.
Like you have a filter in your car that filters the air before it comes in.
Put the window down. Like I don't understand. Like
I've seen people with the windows down too with the mask on.
I don't get that. Oh. But then again, I'm out hugging a tree, and I'm putting my hands in the dirt because that's how you get like natural immunity buildup.
You should try eating it.
Eating the dirt? Well, kind of, don't you? I mean, like, if you're out working in it, like, I'm sure you ate most.
Most of it?
Yeah, well, not most of it. But, you know what? It ain't got in there. Your immune system's going to be way better.
I'm sure.
Way better.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's something to that, right? When you're eating the dirt, the nutrients.
It is, because of there is micro organisms and stuff that really do help you. Like it really is a thing. It's not only is grounding you, but it actually creates more, immunity building properties in your system too. That's why it's always good to put your hands in the dirt.
Well, I definitely had my hands in the dirt this weekend.
That's good. That's really good.
Had my feet in the dirt today too.
That's good. Really, grounding is a good thing. Grounding is a really good thing. I don't do it very often around where I live because they used to spray a lot, and that is not good. Yeah. And since I'm here and it's spring, I'm going to say this. Dandelions are our friends, people. They're our bee food, and we actually could get it's good for different, if they haven't been sprayed, of course, for healing properties, too, that you can look into.
To eat?
Mm-hmm. dandelions you can eat.
How do you cook them or anything?
I've never personally, I mean, I've eaten the weed, like the weeds, but the leaves of, well, because people think it's weed. Anything can be a weed, people. Anything can be a weed that you don't want it there. But dandelions are really actually highly nutritious. You have to look into all that stuff because I've never actually cooked them like that. I've just taken the greens and put it in my salads. But the bees, good for the bees. Bees. And please try not to spray, but people are. But anywhere, I'm very highly sensitive to chemicals, so I have to be very careful where I'm going to be barefoot because I can, bring it in real easily.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, I don't know. This was a fun conversation. I think we're an hour into this.
Oh, are we?
Yeah.
Because I could talk and talk. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like going back to that statement though about what I said, we have it easy in the United States. Is I feel that we don't. Society is so far advanced that we don't have to struggle on a day-to-day basis for most things. Like even simply just getting food, right? It's so easy to just go to the store and get things.
Yes and no. Now, if we're going to talk about food things, and I am going to be doing this episode here, I started it, but I'm going to be talking about how we need to really look into, I just found out the libraries are collecting seeds. They're having actual seed libraries and stuff to teach people how to collect seeds and to share them and how to grow stuff because it's very important.
Oh, yeah, I just covered this the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the libraries in Lansing is doing something like that.
Yeah, but there's a whole network through the U.S. that's 660 operations out of 48 states. And we really need to do that because there are actual areas of where there are no food centers in different cities. And even people in the country, they may not know how to grow their own food. And especially since our ways of getting food sometimes has not been great. And actually how many times it goes through people's hands when it gets to the store, I won't even get that.
Like the factory farming stuff?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. That's why actually farmers markets or if you can do your own urban garden is so important. I'm going to do a whole, it's not going to be that long, but I'm going to talk about the tower gardens and because there's school programs that are, because not everybody knows how to do that. And some schools are so poor, rural and urban, that they don't have the funds to even get nutritional food. And then there's the, what do they call that? Grocery or wait, not the food deserts. That's what they call them in the cities that have no grocery stores within so many. Isn't it fruit deserts? I think that's what they call it.
I don't know.
Yeah, because there's actual places they don't have grocery stores. They may have a
gas station.
Gas station, party store, yeah. A bodega if you're in certain thing, and that's all. That's all they got. Wow. They don't have anything. So that is important. I mean, as we are sitting here in Lansing, and we're surrounded kind of the biggest land grant college in the world, university, and it's an agricultural school, we really have the advantage here.
We really do.
In the state of Michigan, there's a lot of aspects. There's even a program, I mean, I'm going to talk about this in the podcast too, but I just found out last fall that there is a place called the IQ Hub that's up in St. John's, that the founders, the whole point of why it's a nonprofit, but it teaches you, students, they want to come in and teach them where their food comes from and how they grows and all that stuff. They even have programs on Zoom. And in Michigan, if you're within a 2-hour radius, they have grants for transportation. And in one case, the grant person, her name is Sue something. I can't think of it. It's Sue something. But they granted a girls' school. It's I don't know. I think there was 30 or 40 girls. It was downtown Detroit. They didn't have buses or drivers, so they granted them the money so they could pay that to come out.
Wow.
Yeah. So anybody, and then there's school in the Thumb and up in the UP that's so rural that they have like a Zoom thing with them. I don't know how often it is.
That's cool.
If it's once or twice a year or if it's but I mean, we're having the same issues in rural places that we are in urban too, that we forget because we're surrounded by farm country. I think that's part of the issue.
Right.
Because we're like, what do you mean? You know, like when we were on lockdown too, like I had so many people who told me like, I don't know where I can get my meat or where I can do this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I know like all the, little places around greater. And so, but I've always known that, right? So when you're not, if you don't have that opportunity, you don't know that thing, then I can see where people panic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you end up with the shortages too. Like, I'm sure we're gonna have a dairy shortage here soon. Do you see the 130 some cows that were killed?
No,
because of a train derailment.
Oh no, I had not known that.
I'll pull that up.
Okay. No, I did not know that. I know that they were concerned about butter and, well, of course, eggs, as we know. But butter was a big issue at like Christmas. They thought it was going to be a major shortage. So
this is USA Today.
Okay.
And this was 2 hours ago. 18,000 cows killed in Texas explosion. Next, the massive, messy task of disposing of them.
Yuck.
The fire that killed 18,000 dairy cows in a West Texas farm has been extinguished and the staggering death count revealed. Now comes the messy, unprecedented task of disposing of them. Typically dead farm animals, even scores of them, such as those killed in the wake of hurricanes or blizzards, can be buried, hauled to landfills, or even composited, said whoever that, I can't pronounce that name.
I don't even,
Right here.
Yeah, I don't know how to,
Sequib Mukhtar. I don't know how to say that. An associate dean.
Sorry for butchering it.
Yeah, I apologize.
It's all good.
An associate dean at the University of Florida's Institute of Food, Agricultural Sciences Extension, and a cattle disposal expert. But the sheer number of carcasses in this incident makes the task monumental, he said. I really don't know if the cows were all intact. How in the world can you manage this even within a month, said this person, who previously worked at Texas A&M University and helped dispose of thousands of cattle drowned by Hurricane Ike in 2008.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Does it say what the explosion was from?
This is more than 18,000 cows in an explosion fire at Texas dairy farm, may be largest cattle killing ever. I thought they said it was due to a train derailment, but I could be wrong on that. Officials have not said what method of disposal. Okay.
No, I'm just purely curious because of the.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll see if I can find.
I'm just being curious now. Because, isn't it interesting how we've had so many explosions and train derailments all of a sudden?
Well, supposedly train derailments happen quite frequently, more than what we know. It's just, it seems to be more talked about now that, for some reason they're covering it. But there's like 1,000
of the aliens. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's just like now they want to.
There's like 1,000 train derailments a year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty common.
Oh, guess I really didn't know that one. All right. And I like how everything's being blamed on the aliens now.
I blame the aliens.
For what? For everything?
For everything.
I love it. I love it. All right. What kind of aliens are we blaming? Or are we just talking about all of them?
All of them.
I love it. I love it.
I mean, they can't even show us like who they are.
Oh, I think they've shown us sometimes.
You think so?
Oh, I think so.
Approximately 18,000 cows were killed in a blast at a Texas dairy farm earlier this week, according to local authorities. The explosion. Okay. I want to know what caused it. It says they received reports of a fire at the farm on Monday.
Oh, if it's not a train derailment, I'm wondering if they had all their fertilizer or something. And
It's possible. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, now it's just going to be a mystery. A mystery. Mystery.
But it's just like when you see things like that, like so many things have happened to the food industry, like like chicken farms caught on fire and just,
yes,
so many things.
So many things.
So many things.
So many things.
The whole East Palestine thing is pretty crazy though. That train derailment that happened. I have a friend that lives, he works up here at Delta Township at my the General Motors factory that I work at, and he has a home back there, like, and because he came from a plant that closed down in Ohio,
okay,
and so his family still lives there,
oh.
and so he goes back and forth like every now and then, and yeah, he's like, that's like 20 minutes from my house. I'm like, that is crazy, like, because you're seeing all the videos of all the fish dying and like just the oil in the water, and it's a wild thing.
I
just hope it never happens here.
I hope it doesn't happen here too. I think we already have enough stuff going on in our waters in Michigan to worry about that too.
Yeah.
Just wow. Just wow.
Just wow.
Okay. Life is wow. That's all I could say.
It gives good content to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. It's, I mean, not that it's a great thing that it happened, but you know, it's something you can add to the conversation.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think we've been all over the place with our conversation.
We definitely have been. People are probably like listening, like, what the
like randomness. All right, we're talking about dead cows over here, and we're talking about aliens over there, and
vaginas here.
Vaginas here, and foreskin. Yeah, I did it. Oh, before we finish, just because I said the foreskin thing, I did do. Do you know, Amy Zander? Is it Zander?
She does the Zedia
Media.
Yeah.
So I did her podcast after you, like last year, like after the marketing mob thing that she did. It was like in May.
Okay.
And so she and Lisa did the interview, you know, and they, when they're recording, they do it on Zoom. So at the end, Amy had said, Jenni, I've never heard so many times foreskin and mentioned ever. And Lisa's face is just like beet red. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe we're talking about this. But
so did she air it that way? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She said that she did a clip. I don't remember. I have to like find it, but her whole marketing clip that because she kept laughing because she's like, she's like, I used the part of when Lisa's so embarrassed because I've never seen Lisa so quiet and embarrassed because you've said foreskin so many times in this episode. I remember how she works. Maybe you're the only one that's said foreskin this much time. I don't remember. But
this much?
But, yeah.
Like it's been brought up before?
Yeah. I don't think anyone has brought that up in an interview. Like, why would you be bringing up foreskin? But, you know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. But, you know, there you go.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I love that other people are doing podcasts too. No, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more out there than you think, but you know.
There's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm working on building a media company, and I've reached out to a lot of different creators and stuff, and yeah, there's a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's fun. It's a fun journey.
It is. It's an interesting journey.
It really is.
Especially when it's out of your comfort zone.
Hey, that's the only way you make progress.
Exactly.
When you step out of your comfort zone and you are forced to engage, like,
oh yeah,
you either like run at it full force,
yep,
or you just sit back and let it happen to you.
Yeah. No, I run towards it and then go, oh my God, what the fuck am I doing? And then go, okay, there we go again. And then I think I'm hilarious on top of that. So even if I'm not, I just think I am.
You just act like you are.
Yeah.
That's the best way to be.
It's great.
Well, thanks for doing this. This was a lot of fun, and we'll definitely have to do it again in like a year.
Yeah. We'll keep doing it like every year. Yeah, that'll be good.
It's crazy how time flies because it seems like we just sat down for a conversation.
Yeah.
That's so crazy to me.
Well, because you know what? Yeah, because we did this. It had to have been like over a year ago,
you
said. And then I swung by because you were going to interview Sarah right before the 517 week.
Yep.
And then, And now it's already 6 months later from that.
That's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's awesome that we're able to sit down and have another conversation.
Yeah, I think it's great.
I love having repeat guests, and it always adds to the excitement of the podcast. It really does for me. Anyways.
Well, yeah, of course, because like, oh my god, and with me, I can't speak for other people that you're going to talk to, but it's like, what the hell is Jenni going to say this time? I don't know either. It's a great thing.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing about this podcast is like I never go into it knowing what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's like I could sit here for like an hour and not say anything. Which could end up for a bad podcast.
Right.
But all right, Jenni.
All right.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks
and
so much.
I look forward to doing it again.
All right.
All right.
Thank
See
you.
ya.